So this presentation is really going to show you how our current partners are working to close that skills gap by using ePortfolios to connect their students to employers. And we're also going to cover how several Portfolium partner institutions are achieving both accreditation and student success through authentic program assessment. So, why Canvas and Portfolium, right? As you're all likely aware firsthand, Canvas has really changed the world, right? For lack of a better term. It has showed our teachers and our faculty members and our course designers that it's okay to like your LMS. It's okay to love your LMS. And when it simplifies teaching and fosters better connection to students, that's really, of course, that win-win. So where Portfolium comes in is to really complete an instructor's vision of promoting engaged learning and ultimately a better experience. So while Canvas and Portfolium have had a great partnership since about 2016, the acquisition of Portfolium by Instructure back in February of last year really helps deliver on our vision of helping people learn and develop from their first day of school to their last day of work. So where Canvas is a learning management platform that enables, of course, faculty and designers to create and deliver these amazing online courses and, of course, blended teaching and learning experiences. Portfolium focuses on helping students from both, an engagement perspective, but also administrative staff to achieve those long-term successes, right? Both in and out of the classroom. So the combination between Canvas's focus on teaching and learning and Portfolium's more student engagement-centered and outcomes-based tools to support that career readiness for students is really going to create that seamless experience into the working world and, of course, empower program leaders such as yourselves to track the progress and, of course, measure those learning outcomes and achievements for years to come. And the best part of all, of course, is that it all lives and breathes inside of Canvas and is now fully rebranded as the Canvas Student Success Suite. So there are, of course, plenty of challenges facing higher education today, as we're well aware. At a time when college closure rates are rising, enrollment is down, student loan debt is actually exceeding $1.5 trillion, and 43% of recent graduates are underemployed. Institutions are, of course, feeling this pressure to prove the value of our degrees. So the problem is really that we're focusing on this skills gap. So the news, of course, keeps talking about this skills gap and the gap from college to career, and employers are in turn struggling to find these graduates with the right combination of hard and soft skills. So institutions are, of course, feeling that pressure to prove the value of their degrees. So our approach and our perspective is that it's not a skills gap. We believe wholeheartedly that your students have the skills that they need to be successful. It's just a skills awareness gap, right? So where students fail to translate the language of academia into the language of workforce competencies. So viewed through this lens, the problem becomes manageable and solvable and scalable because we're bringing together students, educators, and employers, and of course technology, which is us, to fix it. So again, that skills awareness gap is really just a misalignment between educational experience and, of course, the articulation of skills. So how do we solve for this, right? We subscribe to the notion that in order to be successful, we need to solve for the needs of both students, program leaders and faculty members and instructional designers, and of course the needs of institutions and Rutgers as a whole at the same time. So traditionally, universities would have to pay for a few different tools in order to solve for these different initiatives between student engagement, assessment, and so forth. But again, we subscribe to that notion that you're using enough tools as it is, so let's combine these efforts and solve for all of these initiatives at once. So the Canvas Success Suite offers portfolios, badging and pathways, and of course that assessment functionality combined to really create a full stack win-win. So without further ado, we're actually going to go in and show you exactly how this happens, because if you're anything like me, you want to see the proof, right? Not just listen to me talk about it. So everything starts within a network, and our networks have really been described as almost like an academic LinkedIn. So students, if you think about it, really don't have the advantage of being as well connected as the average LinkedIn user who's 34 years old, is well connected, and of course has had work experience under their belt to show off and make connections and, of course, bridge that gap. So what students and especially recent grads have to go off of are these tangible artifacts, right? The work and the skills that they've done to be a fit for these positions. So we now offer the ability for them to do so, to also connect with employers, to connect with peers, mentors, and faculty, and again, bridge that gap between learning and opportunity. So what you're noticing here, of course, is Virginia Tech's network page. So you see their imagery, their background, their marketing, and then of course, all of the members within their network. So we know for Rutgers specifically, with over 500,000 alumni across 50 states and on 6 continents, I believe, we now offer the ability to not only connect, right, but to also share our work and the tangible evidence of course, the massive impact that Rutgers has left on all of us. So again, the members within your network are not just current students, but also faculty, peers, mentors, alumni, and now your program leaders and administrators can easily track and measure where these individuals are going and where they're making the impact on the world. Now, to zoom in to give you sort of an idea of really how this works, right, from an individual perspective, we're here looking at an ePortfolio. So these ePortfolios really empower students to showcase both in class and out of classroom, or maybe co-curricular learning, to gather that holistic view of these students. So really framing more than just their diplomas, right? So you'll see here an overview of the student, perhaps education, work experience, an introduction section to, of course, showcase maybe their mission statement, why they're here, what they're hoping to achieve, and highlight a couple top projects as well. Now, you'll notice as we walk through that these projects are not just the evidence itself, right? It's the skills and the competencies and your co-curricular and co-curriculum learning outcomes that are tied to this. So helping to really bridge that skills awareness gap, right? We'll see a section for skills, resume, connect to any other tools that your students may be using today. And then as we scroll down, you'll see things like work experience and, of course, the evidence and skills associated. You'll see a background of their education. You will see courses, and of course, these are Canvas courses that they've either completed or are currently enrolled in. And things like accomplishments, right? So perhaps earning a medal or participating in competitions. We know that Rutgers today has over 800 student clubs and organizations, and I believe 150 plus study abroad programs in 9,000 international students and scholars, right? Your students are doing amazing things outside of just their coursework. So why not give them a way to actually showcase this and really prove who they are, right? Both in and out of the classroom. Now, as we scroll all the way back up, what I can do is select this portfolio tab where you can see that evidence, right? And not only can you see the evidence, but you can sort by specific skills so that we can actually create these curated versions of this ePortfolio that I can now as a student showcase based on that scope of interest. So if I go ahead and select graphic design skills, for example, now I have a curated or tailored version of this ePortfolio, right? Where I can now only zoom in and highlight this specific experience or this specific skill, right? I'm able to, of course, hone in and take a deeper dive into the artifacts, no file size or file type limit, a place for the student to reflect on what they've learned, and of course, those skills that were associated there as well. Now, taking a step further, we know how important it is to certify skills, right? Whether that's within your core curriculum or maybe linking programs to pathways to have something tangible for your students to show that validated work, or even for you to track and measure that progress. So there's actually a great book called Swipe to Unlock. It's written by an amazing product manager at Facebook. His name is Parth Detroja, and he explains this philosophy perfectly. He writes about really this fundamental disconnect between what's being taught in the classroom and what really, individuals need to become a contributing member of the working world, especially in the tech industry, right? So working at companies like Microsoft and Facebook and Amazon, we've learned that you don't need to know how to code to succeed in tech. And there's a big difference between being able to write code and being technical. So being able to write code is, of course, a very valuable skill and necessary to be a software engineer. But being technical is a vital skill for everyone, which lets you make informed decisions, right? Both personal and professional. So by understanding how the technology that you use every day actually works. So how do we certify those skills? I'm going to show you. So as you scroll down, you'll see this section here for badging and pathways, right? We see this particular skill, and in this case, it's a NACE competency that's being certified. And this, of course, is critical thinking. So what I can do is now say, well, great, I would hope that all of our students can think critically, but how do I prove that? And what does that mean for this particular student that she's been certified in this skill? Well, when you imagine this story, right, or a student telling that story of skills and experience in a job interview, you can imagine how important it is for any kind of, validity or a badge, any certification, to be accompanied by those work samples that bring that certification to life, right? It's the proof in the pudding. And also, learners are going to benefit from being able to articulate those skills that were coupled with the process of earning this particular skill. So it's the value of attainment, and not to mention, it allows employers to better match their job to specific criteria that students have. So you'll see a description of that skill, who it was issued by, so the program itself, or Rutgers as a whole, when it was issued, and then that student's earning path, what they actually had to do to prove that they are able to think critically. And we'll see those skills coupled there as well. Now, I can go ahead and zoom in on this artifact to show that the student can draw conclusions. And we see here that this individual actually analyzed her cell phone bill. So this was likely a rude awakening. So you're able to, again, see that proof, right? Because all too often, faculty and administrators have to set up these manual processes, such as web forms or email, to collect evidence, right? And from there, a formal evaluation takes place, and there's scoring of evidence that's likely happening in a separate environment from the badge platform at all. And then badges have to be manually issued. But what's great about this is, since this lives and breathes inside of Canvas, and these requirements are, in many cases, what students have already done, right? All you have to do is go ahead and check the box, say, yes, this, completes that requirement. This is what I'm looking for to validate that the student has this particular skill or competency. And then the badge will be automatically issued and awarded to that ePortfolio, right? And again, these ePortfolios are free for students for life. So you're able to, again, keep that evidence tangible for 10 years out of school, right? Should you wish. Now, I've created an example pathway to show the School of Arts and Sciences based on your co-curriculum. So what this looks like is we see a little bit about the pathway. So the new core curriculum of SAS, establishing common goals, and really, these different learning outcomes that these students have to achieve in order to be certified, right, in this core curriculum. So I can see the first milestone perhaps is 21st century challenges. And then, of course, students are prompted to upload that tangible evidence of learning to prove that they are actually succeeding in areas of inquiry and cognitive skills and processes. And now once they complete that pathway and have been validated, they'll earn this badge, and all of the evidence that's associated with that pathway will live and breathe and stay with them forever, even once they graduate and perhaps lose access to their LMS. Now, as you can imagine, everything on an ePortfolio and within these pathways equates to a data point, right? So you are now going to be able to really zoom in and hone in on what's happening within your network, right? We know that Rutgers, for example, has over 13,000 first generation first year students, right? So being able to zoom in on these 13,000 first year and transfer students, many of whom are first generation, and really be able to pull these reports on specific subgroups or cohorts really of these students, to really better understand how to serve them and what skills they're acquiring, even industries that they're following, and so forth. So you see this engagement dashboard. And then again, you can hone in on these specific reports and really zero in on those subgroups of students to better track, right? Dr. Timothy Rennick, actually from Georgia State University, led this initiative for first year, first generation students at Georgia State. And they actually found that within the first 12 months of adoption for students using this tool, they had over 750,000 artifacts uploaded to their network that now program leaders can use for things like assessment and tracking the value of their programs and so forth. And of course, at the end of the day, being able to better serve these students. So just to show you exactly how that works. Now, the final aspect, right, of this holistic picture, of course, goes to assessment. So we're able to perform assessment at both the course, the program, and the institution level, which really helps to prove the value of institutions as a whole, or the value of specific colleges or departments or subgroups, right, within Rutgers. Simpson College, for example, using this, they actually saved up to 60 hours of assessment preparation work and really better preparing for things like accreditation, for example, by being able to really streamline and simplify this reporting process for general education learning outcomes, and of course, allowing for that meaningful program assessment. So here you're able to, of course, hone in on any one of your courses. And again, these are Canvas courses, so no manual lifting, no extra work. You can see all of your assignments in here, your grade book, perhaps students within this particular course, and you can generate a report to really understand perhaps what learning outcomes are being met and at what level based on the rubrics that you're using. And of course, we can get offline and have a data party when it comes to this, but really being able to just zero in on all of this data that exists that perhaps we're not doing anything with just yet. Taking it a step further, we're also able to perform assessment at the program level. So for example, we can hone in on the School of Arts and Sciences or agriculture or business and so forth. Now what we can do here is go ahead and open up any program. We'll go ahead and say English 2020, for example. We have our different collections. So similar to Canvas, right? These are just different containers of information where you can put these different artifacts or work examples and so forth. You have your teams and roles, so who's coordinating this assessment, and then the different reports that are associated with. So not just your review summary, but also your outcome summary, the learning outcomes that based on our rubrics are associated with this program, our criteria summary, so taking it a step further. And what I can do is actually download this report into a PDF so that I can have something that's aesthetically pleasing, but also accurate assessment data that I didn't have to lift a finger for. I'll see, of course, Rutgers branding here, your logo, the program itself, anyone who's actually coordinating this assessment, our outcome summaries, perhaps unmeasured outcomes, our review summaries, so those that are actually collecting this evidence and reviewing it, the collection summary, what it is we're reviewing, and then a breakdown of each specific criterion, right? And of course, how our students have really measured and progressed based on these different levels of achievement that are, again, really in line with and specific to your scoring process, your methodologies, your rubrics. Now, the last thing that we like to showcase is the idea of curriculum mapping. So this has been a really important sort of gap to bridge, right? To see, well, we have these learning outcomes, but where are they being met across our courses, our programs, and so forth? So what I can do is actually create a new curriculum map where I'll go ahead and name my map, select my term, go ahead and select whichever course or program it is that I want to hone in on. So we'll say political science here. And now I can tag these different outcomes, right? So I select my outcomes and then determine where I want to measure those, whether that's at the institution, program, or course level. We'll go ahead and determine communication as the outcome at the program level, select which departments and courses that we want to bring in here. Really easily go ahead and pull those over directly from Canvas. Select which terms that we want to actually establish here. And now we have this beautiful map, right, where we can actually see where these learning outcomes are being met. And of course, at what level and which learning outcomes. And of course, you can download these reports as well into a CSV file. And of course, again, get offline and have that data party that we had referenced. So with that said, again, to summarize all of this, it's important to take this win-win approach, not only for students, but also your program administrators, your faculty members, and no heavy lifting. So looking forward to having any subsequent conversations about the Canvas Success Suite, and we appreciate your time. Thanks so much.